All right, got a cautionary tale. Try to keep this short. We're going to keep it as brief as I can. First up, my bad, Jim. I saw a posting for someone who was looking for sort of what seemed to be like a last-minute wedding reception musician to play like classic rock, kind of background music covers, and I thought, well, my buddy Jim can do that. So I, steered him toward the post, and then later, Jim got back to me and said, "Hey, yeah, thanks for thinking of me, but that turned out to be kind of a nightmare, and I pulled the plug before that even happened." I said, "What happened? What?" I was, of course, my curiosity was piqued, and I asked him, what was the deal? And he said, and so what I'll say is, I'll forgive myself for not like looking deeply into an opportunity that I wasn't planning to take for myself, but Jim did his due diligence, as we all should, and as I know I might not have done to the extent that he did. So the details were, this is like someone who's, looking for, like I said, looking for wedding reception music, and it's kind of being a little bit vague. It was like, the wedding is tomorrow, it's $200, need a solo kind of acoustic guitar player to play some 60s through 80s popular hits during the kind of background music for the reception. Okay. Normally for me, I figure these kind of last minute things are going to be a little bit fluid and a little flexible, and kind of take what they can get, take the best fit that comes calling. The main issue that happened, that Jim uncovered in looking through it, so Jim got the contract from the original poster, and it had all these extra stipulations, some of which were kind of insane. Things like, okay, you have to wear all black. It was going to be 100 degrees outside. You have 15 minutes to set up, which is a very short setup time for any kind of professional musician who's being counted on to supply their own sound reinforcement. Also, you have to play instrumental versions of the following specific songs, which is, that is, again, those are kind of details that should probably be stated up front so people can self-select whether or not they are up for the task at hand. There's lots of people who can do who can deliver the general deliverable that's being asked there, who can provide kind of dinner music that is, covers from that era. But to say that they need to do solo instrumental versions that are recognizable is a specialty niche, and anyone who's in the industry should know that. Also, if the wedding party has selected a specific set list, which they often do, that is another piece of information that you really need to provide up front, because if that's part of the bargain, if that's what needs to be delivered for this to be satisfactory, again, people need to self-select that. By tomorrow, I can't necessarily learn to the satisfaction of someone whose special day it is 15 songs I don't know, for instance, an instrumental version. Can't necessarily deliver what's being asked. It's kind of an unreasonable deliverable. Any musician probably already can tell what's unreasonable about it, but for those of you who maybe are a little less familiar, that's an unreasonable ask, or at the very least is a very specific ask and should be part of the parameters of the original post. You shouldn't be roping in people who are, shouldn't be casting such a wide net that you're getting people who are picturing the kind of, they just want some background music, they like this kind of music, I know some of that music, I'll bet I can do it, versus they have 15 songs they definitely want played, and guess what, you also have to play their special song for their first dance, and it's got to be good. You don't want to ruin anyone's day, anyone's wedding day. Jim kind of figured this out, and he Googled and figured out that this also is an operation that kind of operates nationwide doing this, and that there are a lot of negative reviews from the reviews are obviously from wedding parties that have hired this, and that this is kind of their MO, is that they're promising a particular experience and then kind of brokering last minute musicians into a tough spot, and then it's reflecting poorly on everybody. There are a lot of complaints about musicians who are seemingly stressed out and trying to, they were practicing my recessional 5 minutes before they played it, like they didn't even know it. And I can see how that's happening if this is how they're getting their musicians. They're booking these weddings, taking their cut, and then throwing some people to the wolves, and it's happening all over the country. So good on Jim for doing his part to check it out, and to also know when to say no, like to turn down what could have been kind of a plum gig, because it doesn't pass the sniff test. I was going to bridge into talking about my own experience with my own wedding musicians, which was a little less than satisfactory, but it's not really germane here. That's a totally different story for a different time. So I guess other than just being kind of a salacious tale of shady business dealings, it's a good reminder that there are a lot of people out there who take advantage of musicians and who don't necessarily operate above board, and you have to watch out for yourself, and you have to defend your own brand, your own image. You have to do the best you can, and be like Jim, like look into it a little bit more than I did, a little bit more than I typically do. I can learn something from Jim too. Look into it, make sure that it passes the sniff test, make sure that there were also some issues that he discovered about, some questions about whether or not he was gonna get paid when all was said and done. There were some indications that maybe some people did not get paid, and if the stipulations keep changing, then just take your exit. All right, be like Jim. Till next time.